Hello, everyone. Welcome to this 2020 Halloween reading. This year has been quite terrifying as it is for many people, for many reasons. But Halloween is an opportunity to have a look at those fears, to analyze them, to find a connection with them, and perhaps try to eliminate some of the weirdness, some of the unfamiliarity that makes anxiety stronger. Because when you just have a fear of something, let's say you're afraid of heights, or you're afraid of fire, or water, or dogs, or whatever, it's a pretty clean-cut situation. You know what you need to avoid in order to not have the fear. But when you have anxiety, it's a different story, because sometimes it's even a challenge to determine where the anxiety comes from. So it can be quite tricky. Today we are going to focus on the topic of individuality and the anxieties surrounding it. Recently, I've been thinking a lot about what it means to have freedom and the ability to have your own mind and to have your own space to be who you are. And why it's so difficult and so scary for us to go against the grain in certain situations. So today's reading is going to help you and help me figure out the root cause of this fear, and hopefully help us familiarize ourselves with the situation enough that the anxiety itself is not as mysterious, not as incomprehensible anymore. Especially in a work situation. These big corporations, these companies that many of us work for. One of the most appreciated and encouraged values, I think, in the workforce is agreeableness. And the reason for that is, number one, that we are naturally wired to want to collaborate. As tribal beings, our survival has depended on our ability to cooperate with others for the longest time. So it's an organic part of who we are. We want to please others. We want to resonate with others naturally. However, this natural tendency is treated as social capital by these companies. They treat it as a resource that they can trick and manipulate and utilize to their advantage. So it's very hard, especially in a professional environment, to say no and to stand out. To have the audacity to be disagreeable in certain situations. So, this is going to be today's subject. This is what we're going to work on together. And before we jump into the reading, I would like to do a little meditation with you. Please have a look at this stone. It's called Hematite. If I'm not mistaken, it's associated with Scorpio. So it's quite appropriate since Scorpio season is almost here. And Hematite is a protective stone. Hematite will guide us in this contemplation, in this meditation. And it's going to be able to help us focus on the protection of the individual. So I would like you to close your eyes now, if possible. And using your third eye, your imagination, your visual memory, I would like you to try and recall and remodel what the hematite, the stone that I've just shown you, looks like. So I would like you to remodel it in your mind and see it as clearly as possible. Okay. So now that you are looking at it, I would like you to take a look a little bit closer to the surface of the stone. And notice how the surface of the stone is becoming mirror-like. And if you look close enough, you will notice your own self, your own mirror image. I would like you to take note of what you're seeing. Are you seeing your whole body or just your face? And if you're seeing your face, what's the expression that you're looking at? Do you see fear, anger, happiness, boredom? What is it that you see? All right, you can open your eyes if you'd like. And after this encounter with your most vulnerable self, the hematite has shown you who you are beyond your defense mechanisms. What's the part of you that needs to be protected? So now that this encounter has happened, we can start to work on figuring out the anxiety of being unique, the anxiety of saying no and standing out. First, I would like to get one card that will tell us about your current state of mind. And we have something called the mind. This is the Knight of Swords in the traditional tarot, I believe. And in the Osho Zen Tarot, which is the deck that we are working with today, swords, which correspond to the element of air, the intellect, the rational mind, they are very dramatic and very negative. But this is just a perspective. We're going to talk about this perspective nevertheless, because maybe in the process of this reading, we're going to be able to find a perspective that is more constructive than this one. So, your current energies are quite chaotic, hectic, full of schedules, full of to-do lists, full of noise, mental noise, and fear and anxiety. This card indicates entrapment and a system that is being referenced by itself. So there's no external reference. It's just a constant implosion of energies, a constant internal fire. Let's try to have compassion for this state of mind, even though it's not comfortable, it's not pleasant, and I know you don't want to be there. Let's just acknowledge that it exists. And that's our starting point today. Let's see what the tarot has to say about the forces that are keeping you in this state. Agreeableness is beneficial in a lot of situations, and you cannot completely throw it out the window, obviously. But many, many, many times there are forces out there who are just trying to take advantage of your compliance. They want to make money off of it. And they are quite powerful, so going against their will can be intimidating. But let's see what forces are keeping you silent and compliant. What forces that you can reckon with. We have the master. And that's the thing. The reason you are facing these situations is because you have something to learn here. It's not for nothing. It's not random. And most importantly, it's not meaningless. There's meaning to this fight for your individuality because it teaches you something. The other thing that this card reminds me of, obviously, Osho was a controversial character, very charismatic, very interesting person, but also problematic. And we could argue that one aspect of his being was that he was a cult leader. A very strong and convincing leader of people who believed in him, who believed in his authority. So, the forces that are keeping you in this situation, in this mental anguish, are essentially your belief that there are leaders, that there's a hierarchy, that there's people above you with more authority who you have to listen to. It's your belief that the only way you can respect the authority of a person is to blindly follow what they ask you, what they say. Now, a true master will never be disencouraged, will never lose their self-respect when they are not being followed, because their self-awareness and their self-respect does not come from external sources. You cannot hurt their feelings, so to say, by not following them, because they have enough dignity and strength within their character to know their worth, whether you follow them or not. Whenever you find that your compliance and whether you obey a person's instructions is the key to their self-respect, and when you don't do it, they become irritated or sad or disappointed. They are not real masters. They are not real guidelights to follow. What they are is basically vampires preying upon your energy and your approval to make them feel better about themselves. Now, this could arise in family structures. So there can be family members who will gain self-respect from the fact that other people, other members of the family, are responding to their instructions. This could also arise in the workplace where an insecure, moody boss will completely flip out unless their orders are followed word by word. These people do not deserve any respect. And this is one of the most important things, I think, that you need to work on here, is understanding that even though you are expected to respect the master, it's not always obvious who the master is. And when you find a master that you truly want to follow and listen to, it will be obvious, and you will not feel emotionally blackmailed or manipulated into following them. It will just be the most natural thing. It will be like a hike. They will be on their way up to the mountain, and you will naturally feel like you have to follow them if you want to get to the mountain. But for them, it's not important that you follow them because they're going up there anyway, and they can get there without you. So this is how you can differentiate between a true master and a fake master. If they need you, they are not really able to show you the way because they don't know where they are going. So these people don't deserve your respect. They don't deserve the torture and the chaos that you're putting yourself through for them. Now, as I've mentioned, in corporate situations, your livelihood depends on how you navigate these situations, and standing out can be quite difficult because if you stand out, if you say no, if you rebel, there might be some unpleasant consequences. So what I want to tell you now is that you don't have to feel forced to go against the will and the instructions of any boss you have, even though deep down there's this fire of rebellion in your heart. There's also, rationality and finances and your career and so and so. So forgiving yourself for not speaking up and being pragmatic in certain situations is very important. You can sometimes be in situations where you're simply too dependent to make a move, to announce that you have your own mind, that you have your own thoughts. But let's look at those situations where there's no real financial or other practical reason for why you couldn't communicate your need for freedom, your need for self-reliance, except for reasons that are psychological or spiritual in nature. So let's have a look at those times and those moments and what the tarot says could be done in those situations. And I think in most cases you have more wiggle room than you think. All right. We have the Queen of Pentacles. So the advice here is to focus on your ability to create financial and material circumstances that allow for abundance. And think about it this way, because one of the most popular mind games that these fake masters play is that they will call you selfish. The Queen of Pentacles is selfless, but she's also powerful. So, from the perspective of a fake master, you're only valuable, you're only selfless if you give away your power. However, the Queen of Pentacles says, do everything in your power and use your practical skills, your ability to provide for yourself, to isolate yourself, to make yourself independent, and allow for the abundance and the prosperity that consequentially comes from that to be the center of your generosity. So actually, you can be more generous and more giving and more selfless when you have something to give away. The selflessness of a follower who blindly follows the master and has nothing to offer otherwise. It's pretty basic, and it only provides value to the master, no one else. But when you allow yourself to grow into this powerful Queen of Pentacles, being this force of nature, doing your own thing, and enjoying that you're capable of providing for yourself and for the people that are important to you. Once you get to this point, you will realize that you've been lied to all of your life. That selflessness does not equal obedience. That you can do more by creating the financial, the material, the physical basis for your generosity. that you can become more selfless by at first listening to yourself, your ego, and saying no to the toxic entrapment, the mind games that come from a toxic family member or a big corporation that's just trying to suck the energy, the life out of you. You can do a lot more on your own. You're more capable and you're more powerful on your own. Don't ever believe that you need them. You don't. I hope that you enjoy this reading. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in our next one.